Lovitz or Leavitz Vodcast is brought to you by LegalZoom, eVoice, and Hulu Plus. Any questions? Well, hello. I'm Jon Lovitz, and welcome to Lovitz or Leavitz. And on my right is my special guest, Sam Rubin, who is the entertainment reporter on KTLA. And Sam, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for inviting me.
This is actually my first show in this podcast, or Vodcast Studio, as we say. And I'm very excited to be doing this. And, you know, I've been on your show a lot and talking about my comedy club, which is where we are now at Universal City Walk,
Sure.
Jon Lovitz Comedy Club and Podcast Theater, and movies and TV. Anyway, now the shoe's on the other foot.
Well, there we go. I used to be a professional guest.
You did?
I really did.
When was that?
A long time ago. The big thing now is, you know how you see people, and you've done those satellite press tours. You sit in a room and you talk to 10 different TV stations.
Right.
A long time ago, satellite time was so expensive, it was cheaper to fly people around. And so I was like the Hollywood guy for a series of talk shows called People Are Talking, and I did it in San Francisco and in Cleveland, Baltimore. Oprah hosted it there, all these different places. And so I would be this guest. And I remember Jenny Jones.
Oh, sure.
When Jenny Jones started her show, they did it for 6 weeks in Las Vegas as a tryout. And I would fly, today you're an entertainment reporter. Today you're a psychologist. And I would come on in these different guises.
Oh, you're kidding.
Yes. So I've been...
What happened when you were a psychologist?
I had keen insight. The thing that was interesting about her, it's funny, like you probably had this experience. Some actors have a lot of personality, and some actors have zero personality.
Right.
They're just great chameleons or great sponges. I always felt with her, and I know she's Jenny Jones, and I know she was a successful comic. They used to, after every break, they would take her aside, they'd, open up her head, pour in whatever the next 10 minutes were to be, close her head, and then she could do that 10 minutes. And then she'd have to go off again, and they'd explain it to her like that. Wow. I used to do a Joan Rivers show tons of times. So
her show wouldn't.
But she had a daily talk show.
Oh, okay.
For years, so I've guested before, but not for a while.
So I'm just curious, your background, how you became an entertainment reporter, and, where you came from. Did you go to college?
One of those rare L.A. born and bred. I grew up here.
Well, where?
Why do I think? Did you go to Taft? I don't know why people.
No, I would have. I grew up here in the Los Angeles, in the Valley, Encino, and Tarzana.
All right, I grew up in West L.A. in Rancho Park, and I went to Uni High. And so when I was in junior high and in high school, I wrote for my school paper and all that. And I did, TV reviews and movie reviews. And then a friend of mine, his mother was like, you could make money writing for magazines. So when I was in high school, I did all these celebrity profiles. And all you had to do was call somebody on the phone, publicists would arrange it, talk to them on the phone for 20 minutes. And so you remember the old Newhart show, and Julia Duffy was the blonde, sassy.
Right. I
did a cover story on Julia Duffy for Ladies' Home Journal.
When you were in high school?
When I was in high school.
So you started, wow.
And I think I made a ton of money doing it. I was like, this is fantastic. I'll just do this. And so I did print out of college, and then my big claim to fame.
Did you go to college?
I did go to. I went to Occidental College with my classmate, a guy you may have heard of, Barry Obama.
No.
Yes. And
Wait a minute. You went to college with
then Barry Obama,
who's now the president of the United States. Were you friends with him?
This is the craziest thing. Occidental, which is in Eagle Rock, very nice, small liberal arts school. And the emphasis on the word small. And at that time, not a diverse school at all. There were 2 people of color, and I knew the other guy. And the thing that's so funny, and he's open about this, there was one stoner dormitory, and the one building I didn't really go into, and apparently the one building he never came out of was that dorm. And so I didn't know him, but I just went to a college reunion not long ago, and there were 2 guys at the college reunion. One guy told a great story, I'll tell you in a second. But this one guy was like, I knew back then. I said to him, Barry, you're going places. And I'm like, you didn't know.
Yeah, right.
And then another story.
They always say that. Yeah. Another
story people told was that when he ran for the Senate in Illinois, There was one guy in our class who became like a rich business guy that he called him up and said, hey, I'm, Barry Barack Obama. We went to school together. And this guy said, you know what? There's no way anybody named Barack Hussein Obama is going to win anything. Click. And then when he was running for president, he called him back. And the guy said, you know what? My mistake. How can I help you? And, it was a bit like a big
wow.
for him. So, and if you go to Occidental now, it really helped put the school on the map. There's, Obama mugs and all this other stuff. And then the last Obama Oxy story is, and these, people can look these up online. A girl that I knew was a photographer. And so she took a bunch of pictures of him. You may have seen them. He's wearing a fedora. He's smoking a big cigar. Mm-hmm. And so when he came to prominence, she was very concerned that these pictures would be misinterpreted. Oh, they're sexy pictures. They're this or that. Right. So she didn't release them till after the election, till after he was president. And then they came out. There you go.
And then she sold them afterwards.
Afterwards, but she waited.
So, and was anybody at all in the college? When I know the people afterward, they go, "Oh, you're going to go places." But during college, was he a popular guy on campus, or he was just another guy?
And he only. It's funny. Occidental has a lot of. I went there for all 4 years. Ben Affleck went there for 2 years. Obama went there for 2 years. It's a real small school, so I think.
Where is it located?
It's between Glendale and Pasadena in Eagle Rock, just a stone's throw from the Jon Lovitz Comedy Club and Vodcast Theater. So we could lead tours there.
That's amazing.
Isn't that wild? But anyway, so do you remember the TV show Dallas? Larry Hagman is JR, sure you do. You don't remember Dallas? You do.
Yeah, I remember it. Yeah.
Okay.
Of course.
So I did a story, and this is way back in the day. Do you remember when people had answering services, not machines, but you had an answering service?
Oh, sure.
So I was doing a lot of stuff for People Magazine, lots of the entertainment magazines. And I had this answering service, and my best source of gossip were the operators at this answering service. So I'd call in to get my messages, and they'd be like, well, you got this call and that call, and by the way, did you know? So they would tell me stuff.
They would?
All the time, constantly. Janice Dickinson's calling Jon Lovitz again, that kind of stuff. They tell me this all the time.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Anyway, they said Patrick Duffy, who played Bobby Ewing, they like go to this place in the valley. They say he's filming a commercial, but he's not. He's filming his return to Dallas. So I went there, and remember the famous Bobby in the shower, the whole season was a dream.
Right.
So I did that story for People Magazine. It was a big scoop. And a TV show did a story on me, and I thought, boy, this is easier being on TV. They make more money. I'll do this.
Oh, so that's how you translated.
That's how I translated. So I hit it at just the right time.
So you were a reporter, a journalist.
I was a journalist I was a showbiz journalist forever, and about 2
So you're a writer,
right?
In college, did you study writing?
In college, I was.
Were you English major?
No, I was an American Studies major, which is like English and history. At some schools, it's very elite. At Occidental, it was like if you couldn't be. I started as like an econ major. And I got a test back that simply said on it, "Please see me." So I thought this was a better thing to do.
Yeah, and when you started interviewing people, were there ever any actors that you were like starstruck by, or if you've never had that, or?
Well, you know what, and maybe you had this experience too. Pretty girls you knew in high school, pretty girls you knew in college, but then you meet these Hollywood actresses, and I very vividly remember, weirdly enough, JR's wife on the show, Linda Gray, Sue Ellen, and I guess I had not seen a body like that. So I remember being very young, 17 or 18, and doing this interview with her and just watching her get up, and I was just like, oh my God, like what, I just couldn't believe it. And now I find, and maybe I have crushes all the time. I mean,
well, they're very dynamic people. A lot of them. No, you can't help it.
Right, you can't help it.
No, they're very engaging, and they're probably. I would imagine. Did you ever feel like, oh, they're trying to seduce me during the interview? Not to actually go to bed with me, but they're trying to charm me and
I'm always very, very naive because I'm like, oh my gosh, they're into me. And, people are like, no, they're really just trying to promote their movie or trying to advance the
Right.
She was sort of the Heidi Klum of her day. Do you remember Vendela?
Oh, my gosh, do I remember Vendela.
So Vendela...
I used to... I actually met her, and a friend of mine said, "Well, come to dinner." And I think he was dating Vendela, and I ended up sitting next to her during the dinner. And yeah, she was a Sports Illustrated model. She's one of the most, at the time, I think she was considered the most beautiful woman in the world. And I sat next to her during a dinner, and I could just not stop.
Right.
Staring at her. And that was like maybe 15 years ago or more, 20 years ago. And I ran into the same friend. He goes, "Remember that dinner with Vendela?" And he goes, "John, I was trying to date her, and you're like hitting on her." I go, "I wasn't hitting on her. I was just talking to her." But, I mean, she was stunning.
So
yeah, she's like in person. She was, I mean, it was unreal.
And I thought, I'm always thinking, oh, she's flirting with me. And I said to my wife, I'm like, Vendela's into me. And she,
right.
My wife with the greatest line ever said, "If you can get Vendela, the only thing I could say to you is congratulations." So I don't think she was that worried about it. But
yeah.
So yeah, I mean, you have that. I had Heidi Klum on the show the other day, very flirtatious. So I get.
I know.
And I always think it's for real.
Yeah, I remember Heidi Klum. I remember seeing her on a cover of a magazine, maybe it was Sports Illustrated or something. And I just went, I didn't know who she was, but I saw her and I went, "Who's that, Heidi Klum?" And I thought, she's the most beautiful woman I've ever seen, like sexy beyond belief. Right. It was like 20 years ago, and I'm at a movie premiere at the Ziegfeld Theater, and she's there, and I'm with a friend of mine. And I go, "Look, there's Heidi Klum." And I'm the same way. I'm like, "Oh my, beautiful women, they just throw me." And I'm like, "Look at her." I'm like, "God, I wish I could say hi to her." So I just walked by her, and it was like out of a movie. I walked by her, and she goes, "Hi, John," and I'm like, "Huh? Oh, hi." And she knew who I was. I'm like, she goes, "Yeah, we met before." I'm like, "Oh, we did?" I had no memory of it. Since then, I've run into her and gotten, not know her well, but know her. She's very, very nice.
Right, super nice.
But yeah, when you just think, when they're that stunningly, they're considered one of the most beautiful women in the world, and they're talking to me, and they're, there's a reason they're so attractive. They just look at you.
Right. I had a funny experience recently. Did you see that movie Pain and Gain with The Rock? And
no, I haven't seen it yet.
The girl in it is incredibly gorgeous. Like Michael Bay always finds this one,
right.
Her name is Bar Polly, and she's Israeli, and people think of Bar Raphael. This gal's, to me, 10 times hotter. Unbelievable. So I go in to do one of these press junkets, and Ken Jeong. So it's Ken Jeong and Bar Raphael. And so I, say hi to Ken. I know Ken. And then I'm like, Bar.
Ken's the doctor, and he's in the Hangover movies?
Right.
Yeah.
So I just can't. It's like, sorry, Ken, but Bar, let me. And then.
And this is even now you get like
and
this.
I'm sort of playing up the fact that she's obviously Jewish. And I'm like, when we come to Shabbat. And so finally, Ken Jeong's just like, "You haven't paid attention to me at all. All you are, and you're trying to exploit this Jewish thing, you're just like, shalom. Shalom to your hotness." And I thought that was the greatest phrase ever. And so we now call.
But this was not Bar Raffaelli. This is a different one?
Bar Polly. Look at BAR.
And she's from Israel too?
PALY. But look her up. Your whole life will change.
Oh, that's amazing. I'm Jon Lovitz. We'll be right back with Sam Rubin on Lovitz or Leavitz on the Jon Lovitz Vodcast Network.
Upcoming shows to the Jon Lovitz Vodcast Network.
Welcome to FYI. It's Dimitri Young here with Robert Fick. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Talking Marijuana.
Hi, everybody. Crabman's Rock and Roll Revival featuring Frazier Smith is on the air, in your hair, and going out everywhere around the world.
I'm Gary Garver, live from the Jon Lovitz Comedy Club.
This is the Jon Lovitz Podcast Network.
Hello, I am Jon Lovitz. Having your own receptionist would be really great, but paying their salary, it's really expensive. So that's why thousands and thousands of entrepreneurs are now using eVoice to enhance their image, work faster, and make more money. eVoice has been mentioned as a key tool for today's businesses in both Inc. magazine and Forbes. With eVoice as your virtual assistant, you get your own toll-free number and dial-by-name directory. Every call will be professionally answered and routed to wherever you want. eVoice even types out all your voicemail messages and emails them to you instantly. Well, just like a real receptionist would, but without the high labor cost and the sexual harassment charges. With eVoice, your toll-free number and virtual assistant, they start at only $10 a month. But right now, you can try it for free for 30 days. Just go to the Jon Lovitz Vodcast Network.com and click the eVoice banner right now. eVoice. You'll love it. Jon Lovitz here. It's time to put laughter back into your life. Check out the Jon Lovitz Comedy Club, located in the heart of Universal Studios City Walk. For great food, great drinks, and great comedians, go to thejonlovitzcomedyclub.com. Hi, I'm Jon Lovitz. Welcome back to the Jon Lovitz Vodcast Network. We're coming to you live from the beach in Maui at Universal Studios. Sam, now you've been reviewing movies and everything for 22 years.
Yeah, for a while.
How has it changed? Is there things that, like, and actors and actresses, is there things that you used to be able to ask and now they say you can't? Has it gotten, or in other words, has the interviews become more open or less open?
I think they become more open because the whole social media thing to me, and it's funny because, Twitter and Facebook and all the kinds of things that we're doing now, what is it really? It's being close to the customer, right? And so I think there have been all these filters and all these middlemen and publicists and things like that. But if a star has a following and they want to put something out, they tweet it out, it just goes out. So I think people now are more candid than they've ever been, and I think audiences are much more sophisticated, and audiences sort of demand candor. Really good example, this Brad Pitt movie, World War Z. So the word was, this movie's horrible. And they do a huge, very intimate article for Vanity Fair where they're like, you know what? It was horrible. We screened it. It was terrible. It was unreleasable. And now here's what we've done to fix it. And then it turned out that...
Oh, that's what Brad said, that it was bad. We had to change it.
Right, and then we had to fix it. I thought that was a really great way to go, as opposed to, as we're talking right now, Lone Ranger is out, and it's only doing so-so, and it's not very good. And so the buzz was, gosh, Lone Ranger's pretty bad.
Well, I can't really. I'm very good friends with Jerry Bruckheimer, so I can't really.
All right.
I haven't seen the movie. Actually, his daughter, I saw her, and she was raving about it. Said it was great. I don't know. It's interesting how people say some movies aren't good, and then they're hugely popular.
Right.
Has that ever happened to you, where you thought a movie was horrible, and then it was a giant hit?
The one that apparently they make fun of me. It's funny. You remember your successes, you don't remember your failures. Everybody at the news in the morning tells me that I panned Titanic. That I was like, nobody wants to see this. It's terrible.
Oh, really?
I don't really remember being that down on it. But no, it's hard sometimes because here's the thing that I try to think about is, A, it's the price of the movie ticket, and then for most people, it's the price of the babysitter, it's the price of the whole evening. Going to the movies now is $100 deal. More or less, if you're
for a family of four, yeah.
So it's a big decision, and it bothers me. Adam Sandler's had great success. He's made many funny movies. He made a movie I really didn't like, Little.
Well, Adam, yeah, I was in Little Nicky.
Oh, really? Did you? What did you
yes,
think?
awkward. I played a peeping Tom in a tree.
Okay, what did you think of it?
Well, it was all right. I remember seeing when they make a movie, it's like they talk about reels, and there's like 4 reels.
Sure.
And then I saw the first reel, and it was really funny. And then they re-edited it. You never know what notes they're giving the studio,
right.
Which kind of leads me to that question, which is I've met like Leonard Maltin, who's a critic, very nice guy. And I said, Leonard, if you really want to, this is my opinion anyway. I've made over 40 movies. I said, if you really want to review a movie correctly, you should read the original script. Then you should be in on the casting and see who they can get, who they can't get, what the budget is, everything. Every movie I've made, they've always tried to make a great movie. Then you make the movie, and there's problems when you're shooting it, and they have to make compromises constantly. Then you edit the movie, and you get notes in the studio and all this, and then you make it, and then see the movie. And my question, I think a critic should think is, did they achieve the goal they set out to do? And were they successful in it or not? But there's also...
Well,
is it a good movie?
But I don't think anybody intentionally, it's like, I'm lazy, I'm going to go make a bad movie.
Oh, no, they always try to make a great movie.
And then occasionally, and there have been some other examples of this recently, where there's a good movie trying to get out of the movie that is on the screen. Gosh, I'm trying.
But what
to
is
do
your?
this.
That's my question. What is your criteria for a movie? Is it the acting, the writing, the directing, the story?
I
Is
mean,
it
I
everything?
think it's the overall. Is it an entertaining movie? Is it? There's so many. I think terribly formulaic movies at the moment. I mean, I'm desperately uninterested in Iron Man 7. I just don't care. Mm-hmm. And so it's a problem for me, almost on a personal level, that a lot of these quote unquote tentpole movies. Do you really want to see the reboot of Spider-Man 2? I mean, I don't.
But how does that work if you have to? Let's say do you usually see the movie before you interview the actors?
Yes, more often than not.
So what happens if? Let's say it's me, because you know me. I don't want to slam anybody, but obviously you like me. You have me on your show,
Sure.
Hollywood Uncensored. You've been great to the club and everything. And let's say I make a movie, and you like me personally. You know me, and the movie you just think is. And maybe it is. It's awful.
All right.
Now you've got to talk to me about it.
We'll role play. If you don't mind, of your 40-plus filmography, do you mind mentioning one that you don't think is that good?
Yeah, Trapped in Paradise.
Okay, Trapped in Paradise. All right. Was that the one with Rosie O'Donnell?
No, Nicolas Cage and Dana Carvey.
Okay.
And they were all great and everything,
Right.
but
Just didn't.
I knew what it could. I don't think so.
Okay. All right. So here's the thing. Let's talk about Trapped in Paradise for a second. Before we even sit down, you know it's bad, right? You know it. Mm-hmm. So I think, and again, in this new era of honesty, I'll tell you one. And who's had a more unusual and admirable career than Al Franken? Would you have ever thought that from the comedic days he'd go on to being this great politician, right?
Oh, Al?
Yeah.
No. It's amazing.
It's impressive. It's absolutely impressive. The general consensus, and I felt this way, is the Stuart Smiley movie was bad. Mm-hmm. And I remember walking into a room, and it is, I want to say Janine Garofalo, but it isn't Janine Garofalo, Laura San Giacomo, who was the female lead in that movie.
Oh, right.
I walk in, and she looks at me, and, I don't feel I'm telling tales out of school. She's like, let's talk about anything but this movie. So, she's
Really?
because here's the thing, and so
if you're in a stinker.
if you're in a stinker, so people know, and so then, you don't want to John, you're so hilarious. I've relied on you for entertainment for years. How could you make Trapped in Paradise?
No, I know you're not a mean guy.
I'm not going to beat you up.
Yeah.
But you know it. You know it before I even sit down.
But you always strike me as someone who loves.
Right.
You're always enthusiastic about it. Loves being in entertainment. Loves
Sure.
the movies. You're right. So you don't seem like you want to go out and get somebody.
I'm not out to get anybody. But I'm mindful of the fact. And here's another thing about Hollywood. My guess is for you and for me both.
Another thing. Maybe I'll learn something.
How often do you pay for a movie? Not very often. You go for free.
Well, it depends.
But you go for free a lot.
Well, I mean, I'm lucky I get to go to the Playboy Mansion on Sundays. They have movie night.
Right.
It's a lot of fun.
Right.
So they have and he gets first run movies, so I'll see a lot there. But I love going.
I like
some movies. I'd rather
movies.
go to the theater
Right.
and get the popcorn and pay.
Sure.
I like that whole experience.
I like the whole experience as well. But in any event, we are in an enviable situation that we don't pay for all the movies we go to, and if you spend $25 for the movie and the popcorn and everything else, and it's a dud, you've still got some money left in your pocket.
Yeah, but I would be mad though.
I'd be mad, right? So
especially
if it was just horrible.
Yeah, if I had to save up and bring
Right.
a date and then the movie's
Exactly
awful.
right. So I want to be the advocate for that person. So
that's the angle you're coming from.
That's the angle I'm coming from. So if it's a total ripoff, if it's better not to go, then I want to communicate that to people. But that's not always.
But what happens if it's a certain kind of a movie that, let's say it's an action movie, and maybe I'm not saying you don't like action movies, but is there a certain kind you don't like? Genre you don't like?
Horror movies I'm not interested in. I'm simply not interested. So I'm welcome to let people come on. We had a girl on yesterday. She's doing a new movie with Elijah Wood. It's a remake of a slasher movie. And she said, she's like, it's incredibly scary. Here are my friends, and I've told this group of friends, don't go. You don't want to see it. It's too scary. So fine. But it's funny how that always has a market. I mean, there's always a horror movie out. There's always X number of people.
Yeah, some people love to be scared.
Right.
My friends love them, and we used to go. I was like 18 to 21, and then I had these nightmares, and I finally said, I can't go to them anymore.
Right, I don't like them either.
It's just, yeah, they are. But it's to make a great scary movie like Alfred Hitchcock. You know, like the
right.
You like the older ones, like the Birds.
I mean, but the stuff now is a lot of like these Saw movies. I'm just not interested.
Right.
Let's talk about the Playboy Mansion. How much do you like the Playboy Mansion?
Oh, well, it's a lot of fun. I remember the first time I got to go there, and I was up there, and I just looked around, and my thought was, he did it. In other words, he built his dream home. And I actually talked to him about it once. I said, "Was it like this?" He said, "No, the house was there, but the grounds were just flat. So the backyard is like levels,
right.
and the pool and the grotto, and then he's got this." You walk down another path, and it's like a zoo. There's monkeys and exotic birds, and there's flamingos everywhere, and there's beautiful women. I mean, it's a fantasy world, and he built it. It's amazing.
My introduction to the whole thing was X number of years ago, and it was a particular Midsummer Night's Dream party where apparently the ratio is always, you tell me, it's
I think I saw it one of them. I think I have a picture somewhere of you and I.
One man for every 10 women. This one, it was one man for every 20 women. It was an unbelievable
I think
ratio.
I was at that one, yeah. And the women were pissed.
Right. They were pissed. But I remember talking to Hef about it.
The guys were, I was thrilled, and I could tell they were like.
I remember talking to Hef about it afterwards, and he was basically saying, we can say anything we want to, Chris. If you couldn't get laid at that party, it's you. The problem's with you.
Well, I guess the problem is me. I'm Jon Lovitz on Lovitz or Leavitz. We'll be right back with Sam Rubin on the Jon Lovitz Vodcast Network.
Upcoming shows to the Jon Lovitz Vodcast Network.
Hey everybody, welcome to Talking Marijuana. We're your hosts. I'm Barry Kramer. I'm with California Patients Alliance, a medical marijuana facility here in Los Angeles on Melrose Avenue, and our other hosts are...
This is Yami Bolaños, and I'm the president of the Greater Los Angeles Collectors Alliance, patient operator for Pure Life Alternative Wellness Center on La Cienega in Los Angeles.
And I'm Don Duncan, the California Director of Americans for Safe Access.
This is the Jon Lovitz Vodcast Network.
Jon Lovitz here at the Jon Lovitz Vodcast Network. And I want to tell y'all about the extended free trial of Hulu Plus that is only available to our Vodcast listeners. All you have to do is go to JonLovitzVodcastNetwork.com and click the Hulu Plus banner for your extended free trial, or go to HuluPlus.com/John. John spelled Jon. With Hulu Plus, you get total control to watch thousands of shows wherever and whenever you want. It's time to start your free trial of exclusive content in your living room and on your mobile devices. Did you know you can use Hulu Plus on connected televisions, game consoles, Blu-ray players, Roku, Apple TV, PCs, or on your smartphone or tablet on demand at all times? And Hulu Plus, it's only $7.99 per month. That's $7.99 per month. That's it. But right now, they're offering an extended free trial of Hulu Plus that's only available to our Vodcast listeners. So take control of your TV watching experience. Go to JonLovitzVodcastNetwork.com and click the Hulu Plus banner for your extended free trial. Or go to HuluPlus.com/John. That's Jon. And I have no idea why I'm talking like this, except when I do, it's a lot clearer. Hulu Plus, check it out. Hi, Jon Lovitz here. It's time to put laughter back into your life. Check out the Jon Lovitz Comedy Club, located in the heart of Universal Studios City Walk, Los Angeles, not Orlando. For tickets, go to thejonlovitzcomedyclub.com. Hi, I'm Jon Lovitz. Welcome back to Lovitz or Leavitz with today's guest, KTLA entertainment reporter Sam Rubin.
Thank you.
He's usually interviewing me, and now the shoe's on the other foot.
Indeed.
I had one more question just about interviewing.
Sure.
Do you yourself, you said now everything's more open, but do you have boundaries? Like, are there certain things you've decided personally, you go, I'll never ask anybody about, say, this area or something?
I mean, I don't think you want to, trap people but I tell you what, I think when there's quote unquote the hard questions. To give you an example, this week, Nick Cannon was on, and the BET Awards last weekend. The thought was Mariah Carey had it was lip syncing, and so it was sort of out there. And so I said to him, maybe you soften it a little bit. I said, boy, your wife, incredibly talented. Does it matter if she lip syncs or not? And the way he answered it to me indicated, A, that yes, she did lip sync, and he didn't mind. And he had a really good answer for it. So no, I mean, I think for the most part, though, what's interesting to me is, and this will happen at movie junkets, your publicist will be like, completely making this up, don't ask Jon Lovitz about, rolling that sports car. Mm-hmm. And somehow I'll walk in.
Never going to think I rolled a sports car.
It'll be like, well...
which I didn't.
Right.
Thanks for starting rumors, Sam.
Sorry. But...
Sam, why do you hate the Jews? You're Jewish yourself.
Right.
Not a real question.
Yes. There you go. But I
just did a singing show. It'll be on the fall called "Sing Your Face Off," and we sang live, and it's tough. But the thing is, I don't understand why people make a big deal out of that. Because first of all, what is she lip syncing to herself? If it was somebody else's voice and she's pretending that that's her own voice, that I would understand. But it's her singing, and it's a show. You want it to sound the best. It's show business.
But I think the dilemma. Is I kind of don't agree.
It's like, well, she's wearing makeup, right? So she's like, why are you wearing makeup? That's not real.
No, but you know how things in a studio can be manipulated. I think in the case of Mariah Carey, she's obviously extraordinarily talented, and she has the real chops. But I don't agree with you. I want to see her sing live. That's what I picked.
Well, what if? Well, wait a minute. You don't pay for a show on TV?
No. But that's my.
What if she showed up that day and she was like, "My voice is hoarse. I can't hit those notes. I'm going to have to lip sync it." Right. Is it better she sings hoarse and better? You know what I mean? There must have been a reason why.
There are certain exceptions. Yeah, but I think a lot of people think the reason why is lethargy, that you're doing it because you're lazy. But I don't know.
And I've never heard. I'd have to disagree with that. I've never heard of a lazy entertainer. They have too much pride. When you're that great, you have too much pride in your work. And what did she say the reason was? Did she say?
I don't think she ever copped to it. I think the real objection goes back to the Milli Vanilli thing. Is that you have a lot of people. We ran a tape.
But Milli Vanilli, they were
singing to somebody else's.
They were saying that was them.
But I mean, I think the dilemma is, I think there's so much studio trick and manipulation that you hear singers, and we all know this. You hear pop stars who don't really have a lot of ability. And then when they perform live, it sort of indicates they really don't have ability. And I'll tell you what, I'll give you the other side of the coin.
Well, it's show business. I mean, movies are completely manipulated.
Sure.
I mean, everything is fake in a movie. Everything. Right. They go, why do the people look like that? Well, because of lighting, makeup, everything. Special effects. I mean, the whole thing is to produce a product that's entertaining.
Right. I don't know. I guess it's a bit of a cheat. We can agree to disagree.
We can disagree. Right. Now, I found it's very interesting that you are also an author, and you wrote a book about Jackie Kennedy Onassis.
Jackie Onassis.
Onassis, called Jackie O, A Lasting Impression. Mm-hmm. And when did you write that, and why?
I wrote it quite a long time ago. I was approached, remember when they used to do Harlequin romances? They would do books, and they would have almost
a Fabio on the cover?
Right. A production schedule of the books. They needed X number of titles. I got approached by a really reputable company, St. Martin's Press. They were doing celebrity biographies, and they were just wanting X number of celebrity biographies out per month. So I wrote one with a friend of mine on Mia Farrow, and that was really interesting. And then they liked that one, and they wanted one on Jackie Onassis. And the things about Jackie Onassis that I was unaware of, and it was quite a long time ago. You can still get it on
Amazon.com,
but you'd have to look for it.
Jackie O, A Lasting Impression by Sam Rubin.
Thank you. Her father was a gambler. His name was Blackjack Bouvier. And so the fact that she, everyone's like, why in the world would she ever marry Aristotle Onassis? Because she had turmoil in her earlier life. Her beloved husband gets killed. The world is crazy. It makes perfect sense. You'd go with the richest guy in the universe who could protect you. And that's what she elected to do. So I thought that was a very interesting.
Well, but you don't think she liked him too, or loved him at all? Or?
No, I don't. I think that was part of the package.
Did you ever talk to her for the book?
I did not talk to her for the book, no.
Was she still alive when you wrote the book?
You know what? She was, yes, she was still alive, but this was very much towards the end of her life.
You know, I want to talk to you about this because I actually, I got on Saturday Night Live, and then, I was pretty dead broke when I got the show, and then I started making a living. You meet people, they're saying, Don Simpson, who used to produce with Jerry Bruckheimer,
Sure.
goes, you got to come to Aspen, it's a blast. And I hadn't been skiing since I was in high school, so I said, okay, so I started going to Aspen. I ended up, this is a story. I was in the ski lodge at the top, and Courtney Kennedy is one of Robert Kennedy's kids, said, hey, you're that guy who's friends with Lauren, meaning Lauren Michaels. I go, yeah. I go, well, I know who you are. She goes, well, I know who you are. Do you want to have eat with us? I'm like, sure. So the next thing I'm with Ethel Kennedy and her kids and her family having a cheeseburger. Then we ski down the hill. Ethel Kennedy skiing behind me, being very protective, going just in case. And so I met them. Then they had a charity ski race. Then the next thing they go, oh, we're going to have a fun, a silly awards show. You want to host it at our house? I'm like, all right. And I'm in the living room, and I'm looking out, and I see Ethel Kennedy and Senator Frank Lautenberg and John Kennedy Jr., who I'd met before, and they're all there looking at me, and I'm standing on the fireplace going. I'm going, what the and I go, what the fuck am I doing here? I go, I'm and I said, listen, you people want to get ahead in life, get to know me. And I couldn't believe I was there. And John Kennedy Jr., who I'd met before through Dinah Minot, was a producer on Saturday Night Live, and she was friends. She went to school with the Kennedys, her one of her older sisters, best friends, the Caroline Kennedy, I think. And anyway, so I'd met John before, and he was like, oh, I can't believe you cussed, Ethel doesn't like that, and told me. Anyways, and then one year I'm there, and I ended up hanging out a week with some friends, and John Kennedy and his cousin Stephen Smith, who's Stephen Smith's mother is Jean Kennedy Smith. She's like the last surviving kid. So anyway, I ended up becoming friends with them and knowing them. And when you said Jack Black movie, I remember Jack Black because I remember that week hanging out with John and my friends. We're in the car, and I said, "Who do you look like in your family?" And he goes, "Well," I go, "You don't really look like your dad or your mom." He goes, "Well, my mom says I look like my grandfather, Jack Black Bouvier."
Wow.
And my impression of them and their family, I became really good friends with Robert Kennedy Jr. And I was like, they were just so regular, so nice, and very, very funny.
Right.
The whole family, great sense of humor, and they all do stuff for public goods, And I said to Courtney, Kennedy, I said, why do you and all your brothers and sisters, why do you all do things for the public service? They all do public service. And she said, well, our father, is Robert Kennedy. He would, every Christmas, he'd throw a Christmas party for the kids in Harlem. And then he would say, you see skating parties, and he'd say to them, you see these kids, they have nothing. They go, you have everything, you have to give back.
Right. No, I tell you what.
And did you find any of that in the book?
Right, this idea of their American royalty, but this great sense of public service. And I think that was one of the things that attracted her to being part of the Kennedy family. This, not only the notion of American royalty, but this legacy of public service. And what was the story? That was that Kennedy miniseries with Greg Kinnear. That was pretty good. And Katie Holmes was playing Jackie O. And you know what? Katie Holmes, to her credit, really sounded like Jackie O.
You should have a very soft voice.
Yeah.
But did you interview for the book? Did you interview any of the family or who?
I mean, sort of, these a phrase that was a lot of like in magazines, sort of like quote unquote insiders. I mean, we talked to a lot of journalists who covered her for a long time. But it's funny that you say that. I remember having a conversation with Maria Shriver once, who kind of came right up to me like we had known each other forever. And I mean, I guess she knew me from television. I'd never met her. And it's always funny, I think, where you think, we all think of ladders or rankings. It's like, well, gosh, these people are Kennedys, bigger and more famous than I am, that they know me, and so you obviously had that experience in Aspen.
Oh, yeah, and then, I remember saying to Bobby Jr., so I can't believe you guys want to be friends with me. You guys are so great, I mean, I grew up, my grandmother loved the Kennedys.
Sure,
book.
Of course.
He goes, well, we think you're great, John. And then you realize, well, they're just
They're just people too.
They're just regular, yeah, but they really achieve things.
Right.
I mean, and they, they do take risks. I remember I was skiing with them, John Jr. and his cousin Steve, a great guy, and they've been skiing since they're kids.
Right.
So they're like
expert skiers.
Yeah, like they could be professional skiers and they said, come on, John, we're going to take you down a double black diamond run, which is like, and I was like an intermediate skier, which is basically a hill with a slight tilt.
Right.
It's not a bunny run, but it's not, and it's smooth. And they take me down like the hardest ranked, trail. They have like it's a green trail is easy, blue is intermediate, black is a diamond is advanced, and double black diamond is like the most advanced. Right. And they took me down this hill, and I barely got down there. You got down,
Oh.
But it was... I don't know. I can't say enough good about that family, and they don't talk about what all the kids do. All do public service. Right. They only talk about their problems, No.
And
of course they had problems. Their uncle and their father was murdered.
Right.
And to us, it's the president and Senator Robert Kennedy. To them, it's their father and their uncle.
Exactly right.
And it was, horrible. And anyway, I can't say enough good about that family. I never met the mother, but I've met the kids, and they're very, very, very nice.
I read that big, lengthy oral history of SNL. Is Lorne Michaels like royalty? He knows everybody, right? Isn't that the whole thing?
Well, once he started that show, his best friends are but Steve Martin was on the show. He became one of the best friends is Paul Simon. He lived in the same building. One of his best friends is Paul McCartney, Mick Jagger. Yeah, he knows all those people.
Right.
But I mean, he hangs out with them all the time. Yeah. We got to take a quick break, Sam. I'm Jon Lovitz on Leavitz or Leavitz here on the Jon Lovitz Vodcast Network. We'll be right back. Jon Lovitz here. It's time to put laughter back into your life. Check out the Jon Lovitz Comedy Club, located in the heart of Universal Studios City Walk. For great food, great drinks, and great comedians, go to thejonlovitzcomedyclub.com. Hello, I'm Jon Lovitz, here from the Leavitz or Leavitz Vodcast at the Jon Lovitz Vodcast Network. Everybody knows how hard it is to start a business, especially me. So that's why I want you to go to LegalZoom.com. They have created a convenient way to get your business off the ground while saving a ton of time and money. I use LegalZoom.com to start the Jon Lovitz Vodcast Network. Just go to LegalZoom.com right now, and you can create a corporation or an LLC for only $99. All you have to do is just answer some questions online. Now, I have to tell you this. LegalZoom is not a law firm, but it is a step-by-step process that was created by a team of top attorneys and experts in technology to provide self-help services at your specific direction. And on LegalZoom.com, you can create a will, a living trust, a name change, as well as DBAs. That's doing business as, trademarks, patents, and more. So launch your dream business right now at LegalZoom.com. And you get an extra discount when you type in my last name, Lovitz, that's Lovitz, in the referral box at checkout. Go to LegalZoom.com.
Upcoming shows to the Jon Lovitz Vodcast Network.
Welcome to FYI. It's Dimitri Young here with Robert Fick.
Hey everybody, welcome to Talking Marijuana.
Hi everybody. Crabman's Rock and Roll Revival featuring Frazier Smith is on the air, in your hair, and going out everywhere around the world.
I'm Gary Garver, live from the Jon Lovitz Comedy Club.
This is the Jon Lovitz Vodcast Network.
Hello, and we're back with Sam Rubin on Leavitz or Leavitz at the Jon Lovitz Vodcast Network here at my comedy club, Jon Lovitz Comedy Club and Podcast Studio Theater, Podcast Theater in Universal City Walk at Universal Studios in Los Angeles, in California. Look it up on a map, for Christ's sake. Now, Sam,
yes.
When I was on Saturday Night Live, which was years ago, everyone says, well, who are some of your favorite hosts? And some of my, I liked everybody, but some of my favorites were the movie stars from the 40s and 50s. Like it was thrilling to work with guys like Robert Mitchum.
Wow.
We had Charlton Heston on. You know, these guys were legends I watched growing up, and then to be in scenes with them, it was thrilling. And one of the most exciting people, I have to tell you, everybody was thrilled because we grew up watching him. Believe it or not, we would sit around, you know, in the writers' room, we'd sit around a big table with Lorne and the host and the cast. And then the rest of the room was filled with people, the writers, the production, the hair, makeup, all the set designers, all listening. And you know, Dennis Miller a lot of times be like just kind of looking down. He didn't really care. But there was one host where I looked around the room and everybody was so, like, we were excited beyond belief, like more than anybody. And Dennis was like this, beaming. And do you know who it was?
Who?
William Shatner.
He's great. He's the greatest.
And you know why? Because we're all going, it's Kirk. It's Kirk, because we all grew up loving Star Trek. And it was hard to separate him from that character.
But you know,
he was Kirk.
The great thing about him, I've interviewed him a zillion times. He's extremely likable and engaging. He's readily willing and able to make fun of himself. He's great. And you know what?
And he was a great actor, you know. I remember seeing him on the Star Trek. He hosted the show. I ended up saying, hey, do you want to go see Jackie Mason? I got tickets to see him on Broadway. He goes, yeah, let's go. And I got to know him. I just saw him recently. He's always been very nice to me. And he's William Shatner, you know. And I said, I go, why do you think Star Trek is so popular? And he goes, I have no idea. I go, you don't? He goes, no. I go, well, I can tell you what I think. He said, why? I go, I think because just seemed, when I was a kid, I go, it just seemed real.
Right.
Like this is the way it would really be.
Right.
And the acting was great, and the characters, even though it was the future, they were arguing and bickering and mad and jealous, and it seemed real. Plus, it was about, which I think was Gene Roddenberry's vision, it was really about, in the future, there is no racism. You know, it's like, let's get rid of it, and people are people, and everyone should be treated equally. And it was, you know, themes. The show were really about giant themes of life.
No, I like him so much. And I mean, what are the qualities that we admire the most? I think the thing, because both of us have seen people come and go, you have to admire sort of longevity and relevancy. So the fact that William Shatner is pretty much as big today as he was then and remains sort of relevant, does a million different things, I think, you know, makes a fortune. I mean, good for him. I like him a lot.
Well, but he's very active. I mean, he's still. I just saw him. I was doing that show I told you about, the singing show, Sing Your Face Off, and we were rehearsing right next door to where they shoot Hot in Cleveland, and I've done that show 4 times. And I walked in, and they just did a few weeks ago a live version of the show, and the guest stars. 2 of the guest stars anyway were Shirley Jones and William Shatner. So I went. I've done the show, and they love my dog, so I brought my dog over, and I went to say hi, and then I was talking to both of them, and I'd never met Shirley Jones, and she was as nice as could be. You know, but I grew up watching these people, so I'm looking at them like, well, you're, you know.
Right. And are you flattered or offended when people say they grew up watching you?
Oh God! Well, I'm a little taken aback because I feel the same. I don't feel like that much time has passed.
Right.
And then you realize it has. So I realize when I say to performers, I don't always say I grew up watching you, because I know it's a little like, you know, because then they think like, oh, I'm old. So I don't say that, but I go, I've seen your work. I loved it. You know, but I don't say that because. You know, at my age, to say it almost seems rude to say that to someone older than me. But
do you find Wendy Malick attractive?
Wendy?
Yes.
Yeah, she's beautiful.
I think she's very beautiful.
Wendy was a model, you know.
But it's kept up.
Yeah, I mean, they're beautiful. All of them. Valerie Bertinelli and Jane Leaves and Wendy Malick, and they're all as nice as can be. Actually, Wendy, she got me on the show. She got me on Just Shoot Me. She requested me, and then she requested me for Hot in Cleveland. Wow. So I did it, and I met
the other girls, Betty White.
Betty White, yeah, who's as nice as can be.
And funny.
Yeah, hilarious. And so sweet. And the whole show adores her. I mean, she's just the nicest lady.
Here's an interesting...
And they're all nice.
But, you know, Betty White would tell you this. So the whole Mary Tyler Moore thing, Sue Ann Nivens, then things cool off for her. And then I think it was the Super Bowl commercial that brings her back in the biggest possible way. Who would ever imagine having a comeback in your late 80s? I mean, it's
that's amazing.
Yeah,
and it's hard to do those shows, and she just does it like nothing.
Right.
And they go, "Do you want to quit?" She goes, "Why quit? I'm having so much fun."
Right, good for her.
Who are some of the people that you like? Like I said, Charlton Heston, Robert Mitchum. Were some people like that from the movies from the 40s that you got to talk to?
Well, I tell you what, it's going to be sort of a few more contemporary answers than that. But I remember it. I think you're the same way. I have an affinity for this. I enjoy doing it. It's fun. I don't find it that taxing or difficult. And the only time I ever had to stop and start over was I had a talk show many years ago that Dorothy Lucy and I did a big hour-long daily talk show, and Tom Hanks came on. And I couldn't believe that he would agree to come on. And so
Tom,
and I'm like reading, and the nicest guy in the world.
Yeah.
But I was so flattered. Boy, he's coming out of his way to do our show. I couldn't get through the opening. I'm looking at the prompter, and I need to start again.
Oh, that's funny.
It was really interesting. And then
I say it because my first year in SNL, he did the 5th show.
Right.
And he said, hey, I think you know my girlfriend. I go, who's that? And he goes, Rita Wilson. I go, oh, yeah, I know her because I was in the Groundlings Theater, and she was friends with this girl, Robin Schiff. And I ended up becoming one of his best friends I haven't seen him recently, but he was one of my best friends for 12 years. So to me, he was just, I know he was Tom, but at the same time, he was just,
nice guy, though.
Yeah, very nice.
Genuine nice.
But you mentioned you got to interview Gregory Peck.
Peck, and then Gregory, what's really
how was
interesting.
that?
Oh my gosh. I mean, there's a reason these people are legends. And then what I love is Gregory Peck's daughter. I met on the soccer field.
I know, Cecilia?
Cecilia, who made that great documentary about the Dixie Chicks. She made that movie.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Did you know that?
She did, no.
So I knew her as a soccer mom because I coached her daughter playing soccer.
Yeah.
It's wait a minute, you made that movie? So it's terrific. I'm really interested in this idea of talent and how it may spread genetically.
Well, I grew up in Los Angeles and I ended up going to Harvard High School, which is a private school.
Sure.
In the 70s. So all these famous movie stars' kids were there. So I would see Tony Peck, Gregory Peck's son, was a year above me, and since I've become friends with Tony. And he actually said, "Hey, John, this is a few years ago. You want to? My dad's having some of the old crowd over, and then at 10 o'clock I'm having some of my friends. You want to come over?" I said, "Yeah, sure." I'm like, "Are you kidding? I'd love to." And he goes, "Well, you could meet some of them." So I go. I'm in Gregory Peck's house.
The house on San Remo in Pacific Palisades. It's a sprawling.
No. This was a house in Beverly Hills.
Okay.
It's been torn down since. They sold it to after he passed away. His mother sold it, and then it's sad. She passed away too recently, but she was very nice.
Right.
So I'm there.
Veronique.
So Veronique. So I go and there's Gregory Peck, and I'm looking, and Walter Matthau's telling some funny story, and Jack Lemmon, and Frank Sinatra, and I'm just going. And Tony grew up with these people.
Well, here's the thing.
And I said, Tony, can you introduce me to Frank Sinatra? Right. I've never met him. He was, yeah, sure. So he goes, hey, Frank, I want to introduce you. He was just leaving. Introduce you to a friend of mine. This is Jon Lovitz. He goes, hey, how you doing? He said something like that. Right. It was so him. And it was but even just then, he was in his 80s, and he just seemed bigger than life. And it was...
Well, what's exciting to me is to meet people of that ilk that I knew my parents were into. My mother loved Sidney Poitier. And so when I met Sidney Poitier at Sundance, and he was so cool, or Harry Belafonte was another one. And I was like, boy, this would mean so much to my mom to have these conversations. No, here's the thing, and I think there's coaching, and you just did the show that you talked about. I think you have it or you don't. I really do. I mean, I think you can be coached or manipulated to facilitate a certain performance. But you've either got it or you don't, and then all the names you mentioned, they just have it.
Yeah, well, they worked really hard at it,
right.
but they have a presence. I go, how do you teach charisma and presence? You can't.
You can't.
You either have it or you don't.
Right.
And I remember being in college as a drama major at Irvine saying, well, how do I, they go, they have this presence and this charisma. I go, well, how do you do that? And you either have it or you don't. I mean, and you mentioned Milton Berle.
Right, Milton Berle, and I love the SNL story about Milton Berle. Milton Berle is widely reputed to have the largest penis in the history of mankind. Isn't that basically it? And how he would ask anybody if they wanted to see it, and apparently he did that to whoever was babysitting him in SNL.
Well, Alan Zweibel, a writer on SNL, and I got to know Alan, became friends with him. And Alan would work with Gilda Radner and write stuff together with her, Rosanna Dana. And Alan told me, Milton Berle is hosting the show, and he's in. They have a dressing room for the host, so he's talking to Milton about the sketches, and Milton Berle is wearing a robe. And then Milton Berle said, "So, do you want to see it?" And Alan goes, "See what?" He goes, "My cock." And he's like, Oh, all right, sure. So Alan said, there's a couch with a table, a coffee table.
Oh, God.
Because he opened his robe and he laid it out on the table. I go, what do you mean he laid it out on the table? Because he just schlonk on the table. I go, well, was it big? He goes, it was huge. He goes, it was a salami. He goes, I'd never seen, and I was just gawking at just with my mouth. I'm going, and right at that moment, he goes, Gilda Radner opened the door and came in the room. She says, hi, I wanted to ask you guys. Oh, and she saw me gawking, and she goes, I'll be right back.
I love that story.
Yeah, but when you interviewed Milton, did he say, do you want to see it?
No, but what's very funny is that we have there are people behind the scenes. The woman who booked him on our shows, one of these old-time Hollywood talent coordinators, bookers, and she was always like, Milton, the biggest. Engelbert Humperdinck, the smallest. I don't want to cast aspersions, and I don't know that to be the case, but nonetheless.
Well, I'm not going to touch that. I wouldn't touch that comment with your dick.
Right.
Are we out of time? Well, we're out of time. Sam, thank you so much for being on the show. And good luck. Well, you can see Sam on KTLA on Channel 5's Entertainment Reporter, and your other show, Hollywood Uncensored.
On the Reels channel? Absolutely.
And any other shows?
My Twitter is @SamOnTV. Sure,
@SamOnTV. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm Jon Lovitz for Lovitz and Leavitz here at the Jon Lovitz Vodcast Network. See you next week, everybody. Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye. Well, that's the end of Lovitz or Leavitz. I want to thank our sponsors, LegalZoom, eVoice, and Hulu Plus, for being a part of our show and their wonderful support. And to get your discounts to these terrific companies, just click the banners at JonLovitzVodcastNetwork.com. Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye.